One day I'll shut up talking about literally every other special ammo grenade launcher that isn't called Forbearance, but that day will only come when everybody stops crutching on it. Fortunately, I think that moment is extremely soon, mainly thanks to a few nerfs, not only to the length of the wave, but also to the damage of its mega popular chain reaction perk by a whopping 20%, as well as its area effect by 15%. However, they have had one significant buff, which will mean that the size of the wave is now affected by the blast radius stat. This will mostly impact the width of the wave, though the length and height will also be scaled. This means that the default blast radius stat has been changed from 100 down to 50, and any stat above 50 will result in a larger wave segment than what was possible before. This is huge, to be honest, and it's all of this combined with what could bring other slept on wave frames into play. Plus, certain ones will have some immense build crafting synergy with the new Prismatic subclass, which we will get to in just a moment, but if you want to be absolutely ready for the new sandbox in the final shape, then I think it's time that you start taking a look at the Undercurrent. Now, this Arc Special Waveframe Grenade Launcher was introduced with Season of the Wish, and is probably one that's pretty much going under the radar. I know that it's only been available on certain Nightfall weeks for probably maybe 3 or 4 times this season. Fortunately, this next week on the weekly reset on the 21st of May, then you are going to be able to farm for the Undercurrent again with the Nightfall this week, and more importantly, try and get your hands on one of the Adept versions. Now, as with another recent update from Bungie, then this grenade launcher is also going to be able to have enhanced perks when the final shape launches, which is absolutely immense because this thing really does have some good perks, and it's going to have a ton of build crafting synergy, like I say, with the Prismatic subclass. So obviously Forbearance is taking a little bit of a hit at the minute, and this is why I think that the Undercurrent is going to be one that's going to maybe take its place. To be honest, it is absolutely stacked. The third column is absolutely stacked with good perks, and the fourth column has at least 3, maybe 4 perks that are going to be really good depending on your playstyle, with maybe just 1 or 2 absolute standout ones that you really do need to be tying down on this Undercurrent grenade launcher. Now, in terms of what waveframe grenade launchers are actually used for, and the perks in the third column, I mean, there really isn't a bad pick, to be honest. One of the main ones that a ton of people are going for at the minute is Lead from Gold. Now, this is going to grant you a ton of special ammo when you pick up a heavy ammo brick, and essentially with how the ammo economy works in Destiny 2, you're potentially not going to run out of ammo in pretty much any situation. It's not one that I'm going to be advocating for, but to be fair, if you get a Lead from Gold one, it is not the end of the world. Now, fortunately, on the Undercurrent, it also comes with the Ambitious Assassin perk, which is pretty much the God Roll pick that you want to get on the Forbearance. So it is really good that you also can get it on this Waveframe Grenade Launcher, and it's going to make it a lot easier to maybe switch between them 2 weapons if that is the way that I think that this is going. Obviously, you're going to need to get multiple kills with this weapon to trigger Ambitious Assassin. More often than not, you're going to overflow the magazine up to getting 2 rounds in the mag, but if you're very lucky and you have an absolute ton of ads in front of you, then you're possibly going to be able to get 3 rounds in that magazine and just deal with a whole bunch of enemies. Now, one of the main things that I think with Waveframe grenade launchers is that you really do need to get them reloads back quicker. So if you're not going for Ambitious Assassin, which is a really good perk on this grenade launcher, but I think with how I'm going to be looking at setting it up, it's not really where I want to go with it. Now, where I do want to go with this one is looking at one of 2 perks. Now, Stats for All is absolutely immense on Waveframe grenade launchers. Now, we recently did a video breaking down the wild style grenade launcher with Stats for All and Incandescent, and once you get Stats for All rolling, it is absolutely immense. Now, you only need to damage 3 separate enemies within 3 seconds of each other, and this will trigger Stats for All for 10 seconds, and this is going to give you a massive boost to your handling and reload speed, as well as your stability. It is going to give you a 0.95 times reload duration multiplier, which is just that animation speed of the reload, and combined with the maxed out reload speed stat that you get from Stats for All, then if you are defeating multiple enemies with this thing, then Stats for All is going to drastically increase and improve the feel of this grenade launcher. Now, another one that kind of goes under the radar, but if you are running an Arc subclass and you're getting Amplified and all that good stuff that Amplified gives you, then you maybe want to look at something like Eddy Current. Now, we don't see this on a ton of weapons, and we definitely don't see it recommended on a ton of weapons because I don't think a lot of people just really understand how it works. But basically, after sprinting for 3 seconds, you will activate this perk, and this will grant you a 20 stats to your reload for 3 seconds, and this can be indefinitely topped up by sprinting, and by being amplified the bonus increases up to 60 reload and will also remain active. Now because this is an arc weapon, if you are using it in your arc subclass builds, then multiple kills are going to make you amplified really easily, and eddy current is always pretty much going to be active in that case. Now you've also got Demolitionist on this one as well in the third column, which is excellent to be fair, because Demolitionist on any weapon just ups the viability of it. Now this is going to grant you 10% grenade energy on weapon kills with this one, and you can also throw your grenade to actively reload the weapons. Now in terms of the final column perks, I hear you ask, where do you want to go? Now I mean, if you wanted to pair it with something like Demolitionist, then you've got Adrenaline Junkie, which is going to give you a stacking damage boost up to 33%. Now if you do get a grenade final blow, then you'll get that instantaneous 5x stack and that 33% damage boost. It is really good, but I think just straight up damage dealing perks on Waveframe grenade launchers really aren't the way to go, because you are just kind of throwing them willy-nilly into groups of adds, and yes, you will be dealing bonus damage, but you don't technically need that bonus damage all the time, and you're not going to be using something like this to deal with like champions, you know, or elite enemies, mini bosses, so that damage boost kind of, I think, is a little bit wasted on Waveframe grenade launchers. Now where I think you do really want to go with this one, and we're gonna touch on the Prismatic build subclass synergy and why I think this grenade launcher has the potential to get rid of Forbearance from your loadout. With the Prismatic subclass update in the final shape, there is one thing, and this is more specifically aimed at hunters, and it is that you are going to be able to access the stylish executioner void aspect whilst on your Prismatic hunter. Now this was previously just to make you invisible on defeating void debuffed enemies, but now with it being on the Prismatic subclass, it will now trigger by defeating any enemy that is affected by any subclass debuff. Your subclass debuffs include stuff like Scorch, anything from Stasis, anything from Strand, Volatile rounds, Unraveling rounds, and on this Undercurrent we have access to Vault Shot. Now Vault Shot is going to allow you to jolt enemies. Now to activate Vault Shot, then you are going to need to get a final blow and reload within 5.3 seconds of a weapon kill, and this will grant you Vault Shot for 7 seconds. Then whilst Vault Shot is active, your next weapon hit will apply Jolt and consume the buff, but remember that once a target is jolted, it does take damage over time on subsequent hits to that enemy, but it also chains lightning to nearby targets. Now this jolting effect is absolutely immense at clearing out waves of enemies. It is basically like chain reaction on steroids, and it is just an absolute surprise to me as to why literally nobody has got the Undercurrent or is talking about it or is even trying to go and get it before the final shape. Like I say, if you are running a Prismatic Hunter and you've got that stylish executioner going, essentially once you start chaining Vault Shot with the Undercurrent, you're going to be able to go invis. It's going to add to your survivability, it's going to increase your damage output because Vault Shot is absolutely immense for dealing huge damage. And remember that Jolt will deal with certain champions, and you can even trigger this onto a boss type enemy, and that's going to help you just deal with that extra damage over time. And I think, like I say, Undercurrent with Vault Shot really is a slept on perk. Where do you want to go with this one in terms of synergy, in terms of perks with it? Then I really think you want to look at stats for all, especially if you're training Vault Shot. You're going to be getting that reload speed maxed out, that handling speed maxed out, and you're going to be able to chain, you know, jolting grenades back to back to back and just deal with huge areas of enemies. In terms of what else I think you want to look at, obviously you've got the origin traits where you've got Stunning Recovery, which is going to refill the magazine on dealing with a champion, and you've got Vanguard's Vindication, so basically it's a mini version of Soul Drinker, which you can get from the original Forbearance, and this one's going to give you 10 HP per weapon kill with this grenade launcher. Now in terms of setting it up for the barrel and magazine options, we're going to want to be using something that's going to, potentially set us up for that new 50 stat of your blast radius and try and increase that stat as much as possible. So in terms of the magazine option, you want to try and stay away from implosion rounds on this one because we've got that -10 to the blast radius. So you really only want to go for high velocity rounds, which is going to increase your velocity and reload speed of the weapon. Now in terms of the barrel options, now there is a few stats on here that do give you +0 blast radius, so I would imagine that maybe come the final shape these will end up being +5, +10, so it might be worth just keeping an eye out on a few of these. In terms of volatile launch, which does state in the description that it is going to greatly increase the blast radius, as well as confined launch, which does increase the blast radius, and again linear compensator has also got that blast radius boost as well. Now if you do manage to get a adept version from the Grandmaster Nightfalls this week, then you'll also be able to put in something like the Adept Big One spec mod, and obviously with the final shape then a few of the mods are getting deprecated in terms of boss spec, major spec and minor spec, so it does open you up to using a few different mods on this weapon if you do manage to tie one down. And obviously once you have managed to pick up a normal version, you can technically infinitely farm it from Zavala in the tower. You can also then turn it into some Nightfall ciphers to get a bonus adept one if you do manage to get the adept version as well. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this God Roll breakdown of one of Destiny 2's most underrated grenade launchers. As always, your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. Like I say, I've been enjoying doing these more casual build crafting weapon roll breakdown videos, and you guys all seem to be enjoying them, so the support recently absolutely massively appreciated. If you have been here before, please consider subscribing or even joining our fellow members to get some bonus goodies to show off in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which you can click right here.